We're talking about the river because we have rivers aplenty here in the Chicagoland area. Want to play a little piece of audio of one angler. I believe this was on the mighty Fox River, wading, not fishing from a boat, wading, casting, working the smallmouth, getting all his bait from Dickey's Bait Shop, which is one of the last bait shops in Montgomery, Illinois. But here, listen close to this.
Just laid in a pretty good one. He's pulling like a mother. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. This is a big fish. Holy. Ben. Big fish.
Okay. That audio courtesy of my son.
That was your son?
Yeah. It makes his mom proud.
He's got a foul mouth.
You know, the funny thing is, good kid, respectful, white-collar job, not working down at the union hall like his old man. He only gets like that when he catches a fish.
He just gets into this whole different person.
And the ridiculous part of this is that this guy has caught big fish, tarpon down in Florida. He fly fishes for some obnoxious reason with big fish and trout. And he's caught over 10, 50-inch muskies up in Vilas County, Wisconsin. So without further ado, I want to bring in a guy that I love. I've been following him for a long time from the Chicago Sun-Times and then a lot of stuff on his own. And I mostly get his news on Twitter. Good morning, Dale Bowman.
Oh, that's the video you wanted me to post and get cut loose.
Yeah, I said that to Dale. Nick, I sent it to Dale last week. I said, Dale, see if you can use this. He responds back, yeah, maybe. But no, that video is actually over 2.5 minutes long. And Dale, the reason I wanted to talk to you is because, listen, this kid has a boat on a lift up in Vilas County. He's an outdoorsman. We fish some of the best waters you can fish. But he gets so much enjoyment from putting on his crummy old gym shoes and a pair of shorts and going and wading in the Fox River with his buddies. And the fish that he caught wasn't the biggest blanking fish ever. It was a nice smallmouth, about a 3.5-pound smallmouth. And Dale and Nick, what those fight like. They're like little footballs. Mm-hmm. So Dale, the reason I wanted to have you on is talk about some of the things we can do in and around Chicagoland. Summer is in its final phases. I hate to say it. But where do we go to just have some good old-fashioned fun? There's nothing better than taking a kid fishing.
There's not. And I also love the fact that he was wet wading. I wouldn't recommend it in every waterway in our area, but the Fox and the Kankakee, I've wet waded both of those. Wet wading is when you basically have on a pair of sneakers or some kind of wading shoes and a pair of shorts or swim trunks, and you just walk into the water, hence called wet wading. The other way is to put on, for the more cautious, you'll want to put on a pair of breathable waders. But the Kankakee, the Fox, the DuPage, even the Des Plaines, not quite as much. There are people who wade that, but tends to be more shore or boat. And not as much wading on the Chicago and the Calumet, but that's a tremendous way. To me, that's the number one way to fish in the summer is wade into a river.
Old Man Daly, it's a famous clip where he was saying that one day he wants, and he dreamt of people fishing on the Chicago River, and now that is a reality. What do you think the change has been? Is it cleaner rivers? Is it the Clean Rivers Project? What is it that's really brought back fishing in not only Chicago but the suburbs as well?
You have to go back 50 years. It took a while, but it was one of the things that government got right, and that was Clean Air and Water Act. And particularly in the last 20 years, we've really been reaping the benefits of that. Our waterways have really cleaned up. Now, some of the old sewer systems are still grandfathered in along some of the suburban and urban waterways. But so that may take a little time until they're replaced, too. There's still a little ways to go, but, man, they've come such a long way. The kind of fish that you can catch now in the Des Plaines, the Chicago, and the Calumet, it's just phenomenal. And that's a change that's been rapid over the last, 20, 30 years. Really significant. So,
Dale, I have a question.
Brook trout, but
It's going to be a while for that yet.
Yes.
Dale, I have a question. I don't know anything about fishing, but I do know that temperatures have been warm, especially in the southern states and then in the bodies of water down there. But here in the rivers, we have a normal temperature that they should run at. Are you seeing higher temperatures, and does that affect the fishing?
It does affect the fishing, and it can work two ways. One way is their metabolism can speed up, which means they can become very active feeders. If it gets too high, then you have, particularly if the flow is slow, oxygen levels start dropping, and then you have issues, and that can compound relatively quickly. The fox, it tends not to be quite as big of an issue because there's enough of flowing water. But on the Chicago River and the Calumet, oxygen levels going down during low flow periods can really matter. During the heat, if you combine it with the low flow.
And it's amazing, too.
Real fast a couple times.
Jane. No, but Jane brings up a good point because one of the things that fishermen, what drives them crazy is the fishing. The bite might be on, as we call it, and then you get a rainstorm that comes through, hail, whatever, and it drops the temperature, and that will turn the fish off, as we like to say. Nick Gale, I know you're listening to Dale Bowman. I know you're an outdoorsman. Is there a question you'd like to ask?
Well, I just want to know, what do we think is going to happen here going into the fall, considering how much rainfall we've had here this summer, I think more than normal, and whether or not, are we going to have a decent fall? I'm thinking about going up north maybe to the Wolf River, that last white bass run, maybe, who knows?
I think the white bass run up there will be just fine once the heat settles down. I mean, you're a good month, about 2 months away probably from that. As to speaking of fall fishing, and this is not on the rivers and water, but there have actually been a couple reports of Chinook, are known as king salmon. They're coming back to shore already, which typically the first time they show up is around August 20th. I'm not sure what's going on there, whether people are just out and happen to bump into them, or if they're coming back early for a reason.
Well, it's the Taylor Swift and Beyonce shows. That'll bring them all back. Dale, where do we find you if we want more information on enjoying the outdoors? Really, get outside in Chicago, because although it's a big metropolitan area, it does offer a lot. Where do we find you, bud?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Bowman Outside, and that's probably on Facebook at Dale Bowman. That's probably the easiest way.
Always good to talk to you. Fish on, pal.
Thanks, Dale.
Oh, I love it. Yes, good to talk to you too, Jane.
And then maybe someday you'll be able to hear your kid like this.
Just laid in a pretty good one. He's pulling like a mother. Oh, yeah. Thought it was oh, shit. Oh, shit. This is a big fish. Holy. Holy. Ben. Big fish.
That's my prodigy
and
right
in the river,
there.
we hope to have fish.
We have fish.